Welcome students of class 8 to your online class for English. Today we would be proceeding with the supplementary reader, that is It So Happened, and the chapter we would be proceeding with is the second chapter, that is Children at Work. Now before we begin this chapter, since this is not an interactive class as such, I would think that it would help you a lot if you find out about how rag pickers earn their living, and it can be your own observation also as you look at different children who are employed in the cities and towns. They do a lot of rag picking work. Okay, now what do you think about that labor, how they are detrimental to the childhood of these young boys and girls? Do make a write-up of it. Okay, this is something outside your text, but it's completely related to this chapter. At least you should research on it. You should find out how many children are employed in such a manner. Do they do it voluntarily or somebody makes them do it? What kind of child labor is it, and why is it violating their childhood? How is it harming them from forming a normal life? Okay, now Children at Work is a chapter which is very important because it gives us a glimpse into the life of children, and life of children who are employed in many lowly places, in many lowly jobs, who has to work for a living. Instead of going to school, they are forced to earn their living in doing the most dirtiest work anybody can imagine, but in some way their work is also giving a lot of value to the society. It's as if the sin which is committed by every people, by the rich people in the society, they are paying it back with their labor, by cleaning the dirty scums, by recycling material which we dump without even thinking where to keep it. You must have seen so many people who drives in luxury cars. They are going on the road, and just as whenever they feel like, they just roll down their windows and throw away packets of chips or any other junk food, okay, in the road itself. They don't even understand that we have to recycle certain things. We need to keep certain dust, we need to keep certain garbages from throwing. We should keep it properly, and we should throw it in dustbins only. Okay, lots of things can be learned from this chapter, but leaving aside all the judgmental aspects, we will also find out a sweet story about how a young boy comes to a city alone, and he makes a friend. Okay, he makes a friend there, and how his life changes, right? So let us start Children at Work. Let us find out how Velu gets to meet another rag picker in the city, in the big city of Chennai, and what is his experience there. Okay, so let us start reading the text. When the Kanyakumari Express pulled in at Chennai Central, it took Velu some time to get off. When he finally stood on the platform, his legs felt wobbly, as if he was still on a moving train. So, this story is beginning at this is, as I told you, this is taken from a collection of stories. You can see the name of the story at the end of the chapter, which is, I think, Rag Pickers at Work or something like that. Let's find out. Yes, the name of the collection is Trash on Rag Picker Children and Recycling. This collection of stories have been written and edited by Geeta Wolf, Anushka Ravishankar and Orijit Sen. Okay, so these three people, they have collected and written as well a number of stories based on the rag picker children. Okay, so let us see. So Velu, we can understand that Velu has come to Chennai, and he has come to Chennai on a train, that is the Kanyakumari Express. So when the Kanyakumari Express came to the Chennai station, it took him some time to get off. You can imagine why. Because of the mad rush of the other people who were rushing down to come down. This little boy, he could not get down right at that moment. But when he was finally able to get on the platform, his legs were shaking. He was feeling very nervous because he was in a big place. He was in a big city. Okay, he was in a big city. He was in Chennai Central Station, which is a big station. His legs felt wobbly as if he was still on a moving train. Now this can be because of two reasons. First of all, the physical exhaustion that he must be feeling for traveling on the train for a long duration of time. And the second thing is that he must be feeling a bit nervous because he was there alone and he was in a big city. "Oi, out of the way!" a porter went by with a loaded trolley. So, this is a very usual scene in a big station, right? Even in Bardhaman station, you can go and find out that there are lots of people hurrying here and there, and if somebody just stands in a certain place, everybody will push that person to certain other places, right? So it was even bigger station than our station. It was Chennai Central Station, and it was very big, and lots of people were coming down. So a porter was there, and the porter pushed him and asked him to go away. He went by with a loaded trolley. Velu jumped aside. He was afraid of the call also, and he jumped aside to let him pass. He sat on a bench on the platform, putting his small bundle down. In all his 11 years, he had never seen so many people, except once a year at the fair in his village. This gives us a little bit of idea about the background of Velu. He had probably come from a village. Okay, he used to live in a village, and he has somehow ended up going somewhere because of some reason. We don't know that yet. So Velu has somehow come to a big city. He has arrived at Chennai, and he is admitting that he has never seen such a big amount, such a big number of people, except once a year at the fair in his village. Maybe there was just once a year there was a gathering in his village. Used to be a fair in his village. There probably he saw it, but other than that he has no idea about how so many people can be in a station. People walked by, bumping into him with their suitcases. That means nobody actually cared for anybody else. Okay, they were just worried about which train they had to board, okay, or where they had to go. They did not care that an 11-year-old boy was sitting there or standing somewhere. They were just pushing him or asking him to move. A voice announced something on a loudspeaker. Near him, a group of people sat on their luggage, looking at a TV hanging from the roof of the station, right? The noise was terrible. The entire noise was terrible of the whole station. Velu put his head down on his knees, feeling miserable and exhausted. He was feeling miserable as well as exhausted, very, very tired. He was very, very tired for having made a long journey. He was exhausted as well as emotionally troubled because he was there alone and he was just an 11-year-old boy. Well, a city boy of that age might be more smarter than him, but he was from a village and he had no idea what life in a big city would be. Velu put his head down on his knees, feeling miserable and exhausted. So he just he put his head between his knees and he was just feeling very, very tired. He had run away from his village 2 days ago. For 2 days he had eaten nothing but some peanuts and a piece of jaggery. Okay, so we understood that he had run away from his village. For some reason he was forced to go away from his village, and for 2 days he had just been running and running. He has no idea. He have not had any proper meal for days. For 2 days he had not eaten anything but peanuts and a piece of jaggery. In his bundle he carried a shirt, a towel and a comb. Okay, so these three things he carried. He had walked for most of the first day to Kannur and then got on the train to Chennai. Velu had no money for a ticket, but luckily the ticket collector didn't come to the unreserved compartment. So he had got up on the unreserved compartment, and luckily the ticket keeper did not visit the unreserved compartment, so he was not asked to show any ticket. He had tried to sleep on the floor near the door. A group of men next to him had played cards and shouted all night. Okay, so then he's just remembering what was happening in the train also. He tried to sleep near the door, but there also there was a lot of noise and disturbance. Some men were playing cards and they were shouting throughout the night. "Hey, what? New to town, huh?" called out a rough voice. Velu opened his eyes. There were a lot of people standing around, but nobody was looking at him. "Here! Hey!" He turned around. Behind him was a girl around his own age. So he could hear somebody telling him whether he was new in this town, and the voice belonged to a girl. Okay, she was near his own age and she was doing some work. So he saw him. She was standing just behind him, wearing a long banyan that came down to her knees. So probably she was wearing something which did not belong to her. She was wearing a banyan which belonged to somebody else, and probably she has got hold of it somehow. Her hair was stiff and brownish. That means it was full of dirt. She did not wash her hair. She did not have that capability. And she had a huge sack on one shoulder. She was picking up dirty plastic cups from the floor and stuffing them into her sack. So she was cleaning the place. She was carrying a sack bag. So you can understand that she is a rack picking girl. Okay, she is a rack picker, and she was just collecting all the plastic cups from the station. But Velu couldn't understand why that girl was calling him. And why is a girl wearing a banyan? Because this is actually the inner vest of a man, right? Banyan. But she is wearing that. No need to stare stupidly. What's your name? That is, no need to stare at me like a stupid person. Tell me what your name is. So this girl was all about business. We would learn about how this girl bonds with this boy. Okay, she manages to get him away from the station, and she manages to make him understand the life in city would be very hard, and he had to work if he had to fill his stomach. Okay, so this story we will continue in our next class, but you also find out a little bit about the lifestyle of rack picking children. Okay, so thank you for today's session. Study well.